How you doing, YouTube's Will from Low Development. It's my 338th weekly update. Just grab my phone here for a second. How do I describe this week? I guess the best way to describe it is by saying I don't necessarily think most people will ever get to the point of overtraining. And perhaps a better way to look at it might be under-recovered. But due to the fact that stressors outside of the gym will contribute to overall fatigue, let's just put it that way, I think it is possible that even if you're doing everything right in the gym, if things aren't exactly right in life, then it can contribute to a much more challenging session, or a lot of challenging sessions, I'll just put it that way. And I say that because I have had a hell of a couple of weeks, maybe even 3 weeks now. Basically ever since Orlando's, it has been a really rough time getting back in the groove of things and getting any kind of strength out of my body. To the point where numbers I was able to warm up with on even a farmer or a yoke are like crushing me, and they shouldn't be. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I had to sort of sit back and just accept the fact that, hey, you know what, maybe you need to dial it back for a few days, and stubbornness is a good and bad thing. I tend to be pretty stubborn. So a lot of times when I get into those sort of grooves, I sort of just sit down and I'm like, no, you're just being a bitch, you know, you're just being a little pussy, you know, you need to just step up and you know, you're better than this, you're stronger than this, yada yada. And then, you know, the mind is willing, but the body is not able. Sometimes happens, you know, and that's basically how this week went up until about yesterday, where I said, you know what, you need to accept this fact. And you need to dial it back for at least a week and just relax. You've still got a couple weeks. So basically you've got 1 week where you can go heavy as fuck, and then you've got a week to recover from that heavy as fuck stuff. And hopefully your base residual strength will be there the time of the comp. You may have noticed in my last update I was a little less than confident in my abilities to perform well at the next show, and a lot of that was because of what I've just described, where I was just plain burned out, and I have not given myself the chance to actually recover from that burnout. Late nights and early mornings and stressors outside of the gym, all contributing to a very challenging week this week. You know, that being said, I always do believe in trying to find the one or two sort of good things per session. So even on Monday, squats, did manage to get a couple doubles at a measly 265, but they were damn good 265. And that's how I'm looking at it, even though it's a weight that I should be able to hit for fucking 10 if I really wanted to. That's just where my body is at right now. And I was still in a little bit of denial. Don't even want to talk about deadlifts. Tuesday for overhead, you know, that one was a little hard. Did manage to hit 185 for 3, but really that's something I should be hitting for 5. And it felt fucking heavy. And it shouldn't feel heavy, you know what I mean? But that's just where I was, and that's where I'm kind of at. So in that training session, I had to find my silver lining in the fact that my pull-up game is really coming up. I'm able to do 3 sets of 3 with 90 pounds hanging off my waist on the fat bars. So that feels really good to be there. Wednesday was off. Thursday, just worked up to a single at 275. Now I did hit a set of 4 at 255, so that felt kind of good. like, okay, and it felt fine. And then I hit that single 275 and my back and my hip, and nothing liked it. Nothing was happy about what I just done to myself. And and that was kind of where it hit me. I was like, you know what, man, you know what, you need to just dial it back a little bit. Let's push next week or the week after even. So next week will definitely be more of a hypertrophy style week. And it's one of those things where you should really plan for a deload before you need one. But I'll put it this way: I didn't really think I needed one, and I mean that's just poor planning on my part. I got nobody to blame. And then you know that weekend I worked overnights. Honestly, I think it affected me more than I thought it would, and then more than I wanted to believe it did. And I think I'm kind of just now getting over the effects of that, which was 2 weeks ago now. But I think it really did mess me up quite a bit more than I cared to admit and cared to acknowledge, I think. But that being said, tonight was pretty good. Working a lot more incline pause bench with a kind of narrow grip, something that's close to my overhead grip, just for that transfer over, and I really like the idea of pausing on that, just so I have more power out of the bottom. And I always take it down to basically touching the collarbone, pause, and then try to explode out as quickly as possible and as strong as possible. Worked up to a single, which is what I wanted to do tonight. I wanted 225, but man, I got to 215, and I actually failed it. I think I should have taken a jump before from 205 and just gone to 215, and I think I probably would have gotten the 225, but I was just like, oh, let's just do 5-pound jumps. These are feeling kind of funny. And then coupled with everything else, you know, it's one of those things. But I'm just going to use that as my new max. Moving forward, I've never actually maxed out, quote unquote, on that movement, so that's where I was with that. And then I did a bunch of tricep and bicep stuff tonight, which I don't normally hit biceps directly, but one of the guys was kind of doing chin-ups over there, and he was like, huh? And I was like, all right. So, you know, naturally I have to beat what he does. So he did like 6, I did 7, he did 5, and we just went back and forth. And it first time I've hit anything like that, you know, some sort of pyramid on a bicep movement in quite a while. So it felt really good to do that. Just to kind of bro out just a little bit. And I sort of did the same thing with just a flat dumbbell bench and right into heavy single arm dumbbell rows, and I was supersetting the incline bench with low cable rows, more of hypertrophy style with a moderate weight, very controlled. That's how I like to do a lot of my accessory stuff, is more controlled and sort of trying to feel the actual contraction versus, say, the strength movements. I'm just trying to move the weight as efficiently as possible, whatever that means, right? But when it comes to the accessory stuff, I'm very meticulous with it. I'm very particular about how I'm doing it, whether I'm doing a cable lateral, low lateral raise, or even just dumbbell raises. You know, I'm really trying to focus on what muscles am I trying to feel, and am I hitting them, and making sure that I'm hitting those muscles that I want to hit. So next week's probably going to be a lot more hypertrophy stuff with the main movements, which I don't want to say I avoid, but it's just not my favorite thing to do, for obvious reasons, right? Compound lifts for more than 5, what's the point? But you know, there's obviously a point. So I just have to accept that. I'm a little burned out, and I think I've come to terms with it. And you know, let's dial it back to 75, you know, 7.5, and then we're gonna push it back to 11 for a week, and then hopefully that'll give my body enough exposure to be ready to hit something decent at Miami's. We'll see what happens. I'm slowly building my excitement back up for it, and should be a good time. I'm actually looking slightly forward to putting less pressure on myself to hit particularly heavy numbers next week. So we'll see what happens. God knows, maybe I'll walk in on Monday and feel great and just have to hit crazy numbers. I'm going to do my best to keep myself from doing that and do the smart thing. And that's usually what happens. Beginners tend to have the mentality, one way or the other, where it's like they either go way too hard, way too fast, or they sit there and they bench 225 for 10 for 6 years and then never understand why they don't make progress. And both of them have the opposite end of the spectrum problem, right? One's not giving themselves enough rest to actually get stronger, and the other one's not putting enough stimulant on themselves to get stronger. And then I think as you advance, you sort of come to the point where you become one of those most of the time, where it's like you're either pushing yourself so hard and you don't realize you need to sort of taper and back off just a little bit. And then I think once you get to an advanced level, which is not where I'm at, I would call myself a little more intermediate. That's advanced levels where you sort of anticipate before you're burned out, and then you basically always ride that line of like 8.5, and then leading up to a competition is when you bump it up to 11, and then you're ready to sort of peak for it, you know. But I think it varies wildly by person, and it takes just a lot of trial and error, and unfortunately the body is always changing too, so once you get used to it, some things change a little bit, and then you've got to readjust for that. So don't be afraid to either go a little bit harder, or sometimes it's harder for people to dial it back a little bit. And if you are, then what's your excuse?